Hi everybody, welcome to a very special Toy Guys Talking. I say we make this a three-way dance, or triple threat as they call it today, but ECW fans will always call it a three-way dance. I'm very happy to be chatting again so soon with Jared, Retro Toy Pile. Hey Jared. And Obi is back as well. Obi, how you doing?
I am well, sir.
And
Thank
this
you.
kind of feels like, I feel like the British Bulldog talking to Bret Hart and Jim Neidhart. Like, you guys have been buddies for most of your lives, and I'm kind of like...
I called Bret Hart.
Oh, you call...
Oh, really?
I called it. Sorry.
I'm Canadian, but okay. Actually, I want to be
I'm
Jim.
gonna be the guy with the funny goatee. Is that
I want to be Jim. Yeah, baby. Yeah, let's I don't know if we want to turn this into wrestling guys talking. Maybe we'll stick to toys for now.
I might not be able to keep up.
Start with toys and see where it goes.
Yeah, Obi,
Sure.
I just noticed you're wearing a Blue Harvest t-shirt, which is the original name for, was it Return of the Jedi?
Return of the Jedi. Yes.
Return
Yep.
of the Jedi's original working title.
Yep.
Do we want to talk about the new Star Wars movie?
Have you seen it?
No. I said I wasn't going to.
I know.
I'm a man of my word.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet, Jared?
I have not.
Well,
Uh,
let's
yeah,
talk about Heir to the Empire then.
Well, that is the actual sequel for me anyway. So
Isn't it funny? This is really weird. Like, I always think I'm off on my own little island in this way of thinking, but now that the sequel trilogy is wrapped up and it's not my cup of tea, nothing against the people who love it. But I was like, I got to reread that Heir to the Empire trilogy again. So I went into a bookstore and I was just looking to see, curious, like I have the paperbacks, but I was curious, like, do they have hardcover versions? And there was a young guy, who was looking for the Heir to the Empire trilogy, and he was asking a worker there, and then the worker had no clue. It's like, what are the books? What are the three? And I'm like, I can help you. It's Heir to the Empire, Dark Force Rising, The Last Command. I was telling him all about it. I was saying, you got to read the Dark Horse comic while you're reading the books so you can know what they're... But it's interesting. Like, I think this might be a growing thing of people who are like, what's that meme of the guy who's like doing this in the one picture, and then in the other one he's like, yeah. So that might be like the sequel trilogy, and then the Zahn books.
well, I mean, these movies, they're not the sequel trilogy in my eyes. They're okay, but they're really, I look at them as half-assed attempts at rebooting the original movies.
Yeah.
As each one of those movies echoes something from, like, Force Awakens echoes a lot of New Hope. The Last Jedi, oh my God, The Last Jedi. It's hard to even say without getting chest pains, but it echoes some of Empire Strikes Back very poorly, and Rise of Skywalker echoes some of Return of the Jedi. Spoiler. So it's just a really poor attempt to me at rebooting.
I mean, I can't, give my complete thoughts because I haven't seen the third movie.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot about what goes on in it, so I know the story, and the story is always the most important thing to me. Like, I don't care how that race or chase or lightsaber battle looked. I couldn't care less. I want to know what the end game was, what the whole point. I think it's safe to say we know at this point what the point was, right? I don't think you can say, well, you haven't seen it, so you don't really know what the point is. I think we know what the point is. I mean, if I were to like simply sum up the original trilogy, wouldn't one of the points be a son's undying love for his father and faith in his father redeems his father? Isn't that one of the points?
Yeah,
I can see that.
One of them,
absolutely.
sure. Don't give up on your friends. Be there for your friends. I don't know, a bunch of points. So... but have you guys read the Heir to the Empire trilogy?
Oh yeah.
You haven't
I
either?
have not.
Jared, I know what books you're borrowing.
I always tell fans of the original trilogy, if you love the original trilogy, I just don't see how a person could not love Heir to the Empire trilogy, because the voices are so perfect. You can totally, every character spot on, like lingo, the way they talk, the way they act, everything. And rereading Heir to the Empire. I just got to chapter 5 or 6 today, and the big three, actually the whole like New Hope group, gets to go on a little mission because Mon Mothma is asking Han and Leia, you need to go to this planet for some diplomatic stuff. They would like Luke to come along because they're all into hero worship, and Luke is the Jedi, which I so love. Like one Jedi. That's what I really miss about the original trilogy. One
Very cool.
last Jedi, last of the old, first of the new. One Jedi. So he's special. And so they're about to go on this mission, and Leia's like, "Come on, Han, it'll be just like old times." And Han's like, "Yeah, just like old times." So
That's what I was afraid of.
so I'm reading this book and going, man, we're off to the races. Chapter 5, chapter 6. We're getting our reunion of Han, Luke, Leia, Chewie, the droids on another adventure all together. And then the new movies, wah, 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 it never happened. And that's the one thing people will complain about till the end of time about the new movies.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean,
Well,
even, go ahead, Jared.
I'd like to complain about the lack of Darth Maul being in.
In the sequel trilogy.
I mean, what was it? 10 minutes? Such a great character.
Spoiler alert: he was in Solo.
Oh, have you seen Solo?
Yes, I have.
Jared, have you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I have.
So
Yeah.
that's another thing that just doesn't satisfy me. I'm not a hater. I wouldn't. What's this thing they call themselves? The fandom menace.
Yeah.
I don't hate any of the movies. I'm not satisfied by them. So
Right.
it's as simple as that. Like I've never gotten upset over them. I've gotten sad. Like like I've seen. That was 2 movies in a row that I walked out sad, and I went, I ain't doing this again. Like, no, I'm not going to. I watch entertainment to be happy, not to be sad.
Right.
So but I've never hated it. I just, I felt like, well, that's not satisfying. And one of the things that's really not satisfying to me about the new movies is they keep picking and choosing. They're cherry picking the cool things out of the books, like. I like that show Rebels, but they just went, ooh, Thrawn, he's cool. Pluck. And they dropped him in there for a few episodes, and he had really no impact. It's just, they kind of liked him, and they plucked him in there. And then, with the new movie, they took, spoiler, big character from the old movies and plucked him and didn't really give him anything to do. And the Knights of Ren, they're not old characters, but no one really got anything to do other than, guess who? So... there just seemed to be an imbalance where one person got to do everything and no one else got to do anything.
But I think that's a byproduct of Hollywood or whoever making the movies to make the movies, not necessarily to be true to the storyline. And I mean, that's Hollywood, right? That's entertainment. That's what they do. Because truth be told, I'm sure there's a book, maybe even 2, that might not make a good movie. Might make a good read, but they might not make a great movie.
Dozens.
And so
there's dozens of Star Wars books that are okay. Like same deal. Okay.
Oh yeah.
For me, my cutoff seemed to be like I was enjoying quite a few of the Star Wars books. The Zahn books blew me away, and then naturally more. And then I would read something like Truce Bakura, and went, that was okay. And then Jedi Academy at the time, I'll have to try it again, but I remember trying Jedi Academy going, that's okay. Like, I don't want my Star Wars to be okay. I want to love my Star Wars. I don't want to like my Star Wars. That's, I guess, a hang up a lot of people have when you feel so passionate about something and then it just turns into something that's adequate, mediocre, okay. It's just not good enough. But yeah, you're right. There's a bunch of Star Wars books. My cutoff seems to be like, as soon as the Phantom Menace came out, I'm out. Like I really did not like them trying to tie the prequels in with the Luke era. So I remember like Luke finding new information about his father. Oh, my father was Anakin and his wife was Padme and she came from Naboo. And I was like, no, don't. These worlds should not join. So kind of I've given myself a cutoff of my Star Wars is from 1977 to 1999. And
Right.
I really, really love any Star Wars that doesn't have any battle droids or, you know, any imagery or mention of what happened in the prequels. It just seems like, you know, when the prequels came out, it's cool that that opened up a whole larger world for everyone else.
Sure.
But for me, it just kind of felt like more product instead of more story, more moral, more point.
Although I believe, like you, I think you said that you really liked the novelization of Episode 3.
Oh, it is a
Right, like,
masterpiece.
it's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, it
And what was
is.
the one that came out was it Labyrinth of Evil came out just before that?
Yeah,
That
I
like
think
led
so.
up to. That
Yeah,
was excellent as well.
yeah. So
But yeah, I mean,
if the
the,
prequels, you know, and a lot of people did watch the prequels and they felt lacking, like that's Anakin. There's a different route to take. Just like if the sequel trilogy isn't, you know, isn't blowing you away. If you don't love the sequel trilogy, you could love a different sequel trilogy. Alternate universe is all the rage today. You know, alternate
right.
Spider Verse and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So there is you know, a different route you can take with that too.
Of course, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, for me, the prequels were okay. I enjoyed them at the time, but the Clone Wars cartoon really opened me up to the prequel movies. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, the Clone Wars. I've rewatched every season countless times. I love that show.
It was
Love
like
it.
he was making good with that series. It was like he was trying to retroactively, you know, not fix, but I mean that's the whole thing today, right? Today's
Sure.
whole a lot of Hollywood production studios whole strategy is to not give you a complete product, and that's a major reason why I
Right.
and probably a lot of people don't feel satisfied walking out of a movie because they haven't been given a complete movie in the
Right.
old-fashioned sense of beginning, middle, end. We're being
Sure.
given a piece. So, you know, it drives me nuts. And they did it again with Rise of Skywalker. Even though I'm a bystander on the sidelines, I'm seeing people talking about this and complaining about it again for a third time, a 10th time. And they're saying, so, you know, the Knights of Ren will be explained and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why do you folks fall for it? Why would anyone spend 1 cent on that? Why don't people revolt and say, no, damn it? Yeah, use the word damn it. I paid
Oh,
10 or
Uh,
15 or $20 for a
wow.
movie
It's a family
ticket.
show.
yeah, you're gonna lose that
Hey,
PG rating, Michael.
not anymore. Ages 13 and up.
Mm,
Well,
that's right.
it's okay for kids as long as your parents are logged in to their YouTube account.
Mm,
But yeah, like people shouldn't stand for that. And that's what I started to do. I started to say, wait a second, I paid 10, $15 for a ticket and you're telling me I got to read the book or buy the
yeah.
no. No, you owe me the story. You owe it to me. And, you know, well, they don't really owe me. I don't have that attitude, you know, like I just feel like, hey, because you did this, I won't let you do it to me again. And I'm really happy that I didn't drop the money on Rise of Skywalker for that exact reason. Because like Maz Kanata finding the lightsaber. How'd you get this thing? Where'd you get it? Oh, that's a story for another time. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's never going to be explained unless it's in a book or a comic.
Well, I'll tell you this. Spoiler: it's not. It's still not explained. And I
It's going to be a new book by whoever. It'll be a trilogy of books.
That movie will come out in 2027, something like that.
Oh, maybe
It's
it'll
gonna
be a
be
Disney Plus.
Maskanada's biography.
Maybe it'll be a Disney Plus series.
Yeah.
And that's like that's
Oh, wow.
another issue, like doing these explanations for stuff that doesn't matter anymore. Like it's done, right? Who cares who the Knights of Ren are and what they did? Who cares? It's over. It doesn't matter. Oh, what's his name? He's getting a new series on Disney Plus. Cassian Andor.
Yeah.
Who cares? I
Right.
mean, and I'm saying that as a guy who liked Rogue One. He's dead. Who cares?
Well, I loved Rogue One, but I mean, I might check out the series, but I'm not like looking forward to it or anything like that.
Uh,
So
it's an odd
I don't
choice
know.
to me. Like he's done. His story is told, and
Sure.
I and that's another thing. Reason why 99 is my cutoff for Star Wars is like I think I'm okay with the prequel. I'm done with the prequels. I don't want any more backstory. I don't want to know why someone ended up the way they did. And just please, enough with the backstory. We need good storytellers who tell a good now story instead of
Right.
filling in these blanks, which the Clone Wars was great, but that's what the Clone Wars was. It was kind of trying to fix,
Yeah.
what wasn't done well in the first place.
Absolutely.
In my opinion.
Right. Yeah, they didn't really explain General Grievous to me too well, so they lost me. That was a joke, dry humor.
That was, well, it was a potentially cool character, but I think Grievous is exactly like the Knights of Ren.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It was,
you see him.
To be quite honest with and I'm embarrassed to even admit it, but one of my favorite, I guess, fight scenes was when the General Grievous fight scene, when he's got his 5 arms and his lightsabers, and I mean, that was entertaining. Had nothing to do with the book, nothing to do with the story. It was just I thought it was a pretty entertaining fight scene. I thought it was pretty awesome, actually.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
Well, and they talk about him a little bit more in the book, if I'm remembering right, and like the movie just scratched the surface. Like, this guy has a fascinating story, and he really, Grievous really could have been the Vader of that trilogy. Unfortunately, they didn't come up with them until the 3rd movie.
Right.
So it's a little too late, and it's just kind of funny how it sounds like Rise of Skywalker is more of that, like it's all just a little too late. It's everything crammed into the 3rd movie that should have been spread over a trilogy in itself.
Yeah, they've explained a lot of the main characters, and I think that's as far as they're going to go with it.
I wonder if this is like a common thing if you get a bunch of Star Wars fans together. Like, we're fans of many things, but if you just get a bunch of them together, we go into a group therapy session about how much better it used to be.
Who's going to moderate that? Uncle George?
I don't know. That guy is a genius at making money, and maybe he decided this is the best route. Just sell this off, and like, the money's in therapy. So he's licensed therapist, and have a seat on the couch.
Dr. Lucas, he'll see you now.
We're all massive Masters of the Universe fans too here, though, right? And Jared, you got some awesome stuff behind you there. You got a box slime pit and Monstroid, awesome, amazing Masters of the Universe collection. So the news that I've recently heard, we heard that there's going to be a Netflix He-Man animated series by Kevin Smith, and now they're saying there's going to be another one on top of that too.
Now that I hadn't heard.
Yeah, what is the second one?
An extra one with not really any details, just, I mean, the World's Gone announcement crazy. It's more about the announcements than the actual, like, product, the actual work, the story. Yeah. It's more about, this is happening. Oh, that's happening. Oh, and then, the trailer announcement, obviously. The trailer's dropping on Tuesday.
Trailer, yes,
right.
Yes.
Well, the one thing I will say, I've been a He-Man fan for a very long time, and I don't get excited about the trailers or the movie announcements or anything like that anymore, because I remember the days back on the forums, He-Man.org and whatnot. It seemed like every other week somebody was starting a thread about a new trailer coming out or a new director that showed some interest in the line, and nothing ever came to fruition back then. There was a couple of close calls that we had, where somebody would try to pick up the rights, or, a director would be named, and, it would just die on the vine. Nothing would happen with it.
Yeah.
So as the fan that would be constantly let down, I just stopped caring. So now, until I see that movie on the marquee at the movie theater, I don't care. I don't. The day that they release the Netflix animated series is going to be great, because I will watch that. I'll binge it. But until then, I mean, I have zero anticipation for any of the new stuff, just because I've heard it before. And it's kind of one of the, going back to your Star Wars letdowns, you kind of, what you might want to see. And I have a feeling that I'm not going to see, because let's not forget, we did have a Masters of the Universe movie back in '87, which was
Oof.
horrendous.
Awesome. Oh, what?
Even as a 6-year-old, I
Uh-oh.
recognize that
Shots fired.
that was a waste of a hour and a half, cinematic role. But no, I mean, listen,
How
it'll
dare
be
you?
Yeah, it'll be great.
Blasphemy.
It'll be great if it does come out, and I'm sure it would be. It'll be awesome. A lot of people will be excited about it, but
Yeah.
until it comes out, I'm not going to get too excited.
Yeah, you're over the hype like me, and I would love one day to see something like, like it trend, or just this mass thought, this mass belief of the trailer isn't enough. It's just not enough. And there's so many people who go crazy over the trailer, and they get millions of views, and they create all this hype, and it's not enough. I just think that it's junk food. I think people watch it and they get really excited about it, and then they're left with an unsatisfied, empty feeling. I mean, sure, they're hyped for a few days or a few weeks maybe, but it's like we remember the Force Awakens trailer. Chewie, we're home. That was so amazing, but that was chocolate cake, right? That wasn't an experience, like watching an original Star Wars movie where you can, so many people remember seeing A New Hope or Empire Strikes Back in a theater, or Return of the Jedi. And that's a magical memory for them, to sit there in a theater and just experience that whole movie.
Right.
But Chewie, we're home. Like, that was a cool trailer, and I got choked up watching that too, but that was 2 minutes, and it's chocolate cake. It wasn't like a 4-course spectacular meal that you'll never forget. I think it was just such a quick thing, and it keeps happening. And and then the craziest thing to me is when the trailer drops, and before you can watch the trailer, there's a trailer to the trailer. Coming up now. Like, there's a 15-second
trailer A, B, and C,
teaser.
And then there's the Canadian trailer, the American trailer. And
I don't know.
then there's the movie, and it turns out that those are all the good parts in the movie.
I don't care if I sound like old guy complaining, but I don't know how we got here. Like, the trailers used to be something you watch like this. Wouldn't get.
I may want to see that.
You wouldn't get more excited about the.
Interest.
Yeah, and you never got more excited about the trailer than the movie.
Yeah.
As exciting as, like, I'm thinking T2, Terminator 2 trailer came out. That I remember seeing that and going, "Wow." That was my reaction to it.
Yeah.
Wow, we should go see that. Wow, that's as hyped as I got about a trailer. And then you saw the movie and you went, "Whoa!"
Yeah.
But today, you're getting people watching the trailer going, "Oh!" And then they go to the movie, and you get what you get.
Well, they go to the movie, and the entire 2 hours, they're anticipating seeing all of those pieces of chocolate cake that they saw in the trailer.
Yeah.
Because
Which
it turns out, they're all cut, and that's what you get nowadays.
Yeah. So it would be cool to see, like, the majority of people go, "Hey, you know what? The trailer isn't enough. I want a good story. I want a story that had time, that the director wasn't rushed with a deadline. Like, you got to do it now." And the director say, "I can't. I need more time. Here's an extra couple $1 million. Okay, when's your deadline?" Like that. I mean, it should be obvious. It's not working. The only person who's benefiting out of this is the director, who's getting rich off it. But there's a lot of people who are just being disappointed by it. So I don't know if we'll ever see it in our lifetime.
The other thing with all this trailer madness, so, like, I remember, like, say, Rise of Skywalker, the trailer drops. So I'm at work, so I go on YouTube. All right, let me watch the trailer. And then in the recommended, there's like 10, let's break down the trailer videos.
Yeah.
Easter eggs in the trailer videos. I'm like, what are you doing with your life? Go to bed.
Yeah.
Watch the trailer, enjoy the trailer, and stop.
And that's it. Just go see the movie after
anytime I've ever done a video on trailer reaction, I'm always cognizant of that. Like, are we really doing this? I guess we're doing this. I guess this is like the old Shakespeare line is, the play is the thing, and the play is not the thing anymore. The trailer to the play is the thing. So I am sad every time I do a trailer review. trailer reaction. I'm sad because the trailer is a thing and it shouldn't be. The movie should be the thing, but it's the trailer. I mean, they shouldn't even make movies anymore. They should just do trailers like those, those fake Saturday Night Live trailers. They should Disney should do a trailer for episode 10. Not even make a movie. Just do a trailer for episode 10.
That's it.
Have Ray 20 years older. And like, are really that many people going to be disappointed? I don't know. If you give them a great trailer, maybe a lot of people won't care.
That's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, segueing back to the Masters of the Universe animated, I am a fan of the 2000X animated series.
Oh, love it.
Very cool.
I mean, if anyone out there hasn't watched that, I definitely recommend. How many? I think it was only two seasons. Obi, am I correct? And then Rise of this, it was a Snake Man.
Either 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2.
Yeah, it was like 2.5 seasons, something like that.
Fantastic. I mean, from episode 1, the way that they developed the characters, the way the characters looked, the way they animated them, they were awesome.
It was I thought pretty different from the Lou Scheimer show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, like, it was kind of a blend. It was kind of Luke Skywalker. It was a little of the old and a little of the new, and all mashed together. So it had some of the morals, but it didn't go as hard on the morals as Lou's stuff did. It had amazing animation. It's widescreen, so it doesn't even it's not even 4:3. What is this old stuff? Like it'll look good on a big screen TV. Hope we get an HD version of it. Great music, amazing action sequences, great stories, and I think it's the template for your live action Masters of the Universe movie. I mean, if you just do that with real people, I think you're gonna have a really good. Yeah, I know. They'll pick and choose,
That's
right?
a good idea. Right.
Yeah, they'll pick and choose. But that's, and they got rid of some of the things like Adam gets a tan and he's He-Man. So they went, well, how do we make this a little more believable? And they have him grow a little bit.
Yeah.
So I liked it. I love the backstory about King Grayskull. That was just a stroke of genius. That the castle is named after the guy named Grayskull. And that's one of the things that I liked, where it changes something that's so ingrained in you. Whenever he was saying that by the power of Grayskull, instead of by the power of that castle behind me, it's actually by the power of that guy who built that castle, and the power originates from. Like, I could get behind that. I'd love a movie or even an animated series about King Grayskull. And just, I know that's a prequel, and I said, I don't want the backstory, but to me, that's not He-Man's backstory. That's he's so far removed. That's kind of like the Knights of the Old Republic, that's so far back. That's its own thing. Just not really any real connection to it.
Right. I agree. Especially in that series, the way that they developed all the characters. Even longtime fans that may not have known where Buzz-Off came from, or how he was. There was a whole race of people like him. I mean, just stuff like that was incredible, because now they got to take these characters and build off of that, and it was awesome.
It's really interesting to me how the Filmation show is my thing. I loved it, grew up on it, but they didn't fill in the blanks on a lot of characters like Buzz-Off. There's no real satisfying story for Buzz-Off's introduction. And so where there are gaps in the Filmation show, I will go to the 2000X, the Mike Young show, and go, that's Buzz-Off's story. That's Fisto's story. You know, like
Zodak and whatnot.
Zodak, like it was.
Zodak had a great backstory in that.
That was excellent. Yeah,
that's a great example of like the point being more important than the style. Like it's the 2000X, although it has a lot of style, I think it has a lot of substance too. It does, so much good character and story development, continuity. Like if you jump in episode 14, like you're lost.
You're lost.
You have to start at the beginning.
Well, don't forget the Filmation show went hand in hand with selling toys, so that was more of a marketing thing, anyhow. Whereas 2000X, they had a real opportunity to not go that route.
And the toys, I don't like. I was an adult by the time the toys came out, but I remember looking at them and going, "These are amazing little display things for your shelf. Are kids really loving these? Like they look so intense, and you know the articulation is about the same as the originals, but like I was like, can you really play all that well with these? They seem fragile. Like I broke one doing nothing to it. So I thought like this is definitely more geared to teens or an older crowd than kids.
Yeah.
Why even make them posable? Like later on, they just made them staction figures, the Nika ones, right? I thought maybe
Right.
that should have been
They did,
the plan from the beginning, is just make these guys display pieces.
Well, what was interesting with the figures was I'm not so sure they made them for playability. I mean, if you consider the chase figures that they had repaints, and then they recarded the figures later on the green Snake Men cards.
Yeah.
Yep.
And they were mostly repaints. I'm not so sure that they actually were for playability. I have a feeling that they were geared more towards, you know, the adult or the older, maybe a teenage collector. But you know, there was packaging variants and things like that. So they had a lot of collectability, and I think they realized that. You know, because how many trap jaws can you sell? Well, we'll paint them a goofy color and see if somebody buys them. And they did. They did that to a lot of figures.
Disco Skeletor, anybody?
Yeah, I mean, what is that? You know,
So
but it worked.
I mean, I should sell mine,
all.
Jared. Is that what you're saying?
I had them all.
I know.
I need to do a top 5 list of the funkiest figures ever made, and have Disco Skeletor and Pimp Daddy Destro on there.
Daddy Destro, yeah.
I don't know who would be the other 3. Like really swanky.
I'm on the spot here. I got nothing. Yeah, I got nothing.
Empire's Lando Calrissian.
Oh, this is my best cape. Just make the other 3 all Lando. Empire Lando, Return of the Jedi Lando, and then let's throw Solo Lando in there too.
Yeah.
Someone must have told about my little maneuver at the Battle of Tanab.
Oh. Tanab, what system is that? I'm not talking about a system, baby. So you guys go way back. How old were you guys when you met?
It was probably like 2005, 2006, I think.
Oh, really?
Something like that.
Oh, I thought you guys went back to like childhood.
Oh no. Well, I'm 11 years older than him, so.
Oh, okay.
Actually, it's funny because it turned out I met Jared because he was my wife's boss.
Oh, really?
For a little while, yeah. Yeah.
And he couldn't tell what to do either, so it
We had an intervention. I'm like, I gotta see what this guy's doing at home here, because this is ridiculous.
Yeah. That's a good word for it.
Are there and what town are you in?
We live in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Fall River, Mass. How far away is that from Beantown?
We're about an hour south.
Okay.
Yeah, 45 minutes to an hour, sure.
Yeah.
Are there is there a collecting community in your town there?
Yeah.
Oh, in our town?
Not in our town. I mean, there's a few people local, you know, within, I'd say, 20-minute drive.
Yeah.
Obi I think he has more Instagram friends
we all
that
do.
are actually local, that he actually gets with.
We get together like once a month or so.
Yeah.
Once every other month.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm always encouraging people. My town's kind of the same thing. We've got a few collectors here and there, but getting them together is kind of like herding cats. You know, like it's just
it's like a goat rodeo.
Yeah.
People still
such a big part of it seems like such a big part of the collecting community is just the internet. I mean, the internet has just, you know, it's absolutely vital. And I wonder how many people, if they didn't have the internet, would just fall out of love with all this stuff. So, you know, the internet is good enough to interact with people, chat with them.
Right.
But like the in-person interactions there, like we don't, in my town here in Kitchener, Ontario, we don't have any sort of collector get-togethers other than the toy shows, right? But that's a show. You go and you hunt and you shop and you leave. But there isn't any, you know, like wing night or anything like that here. And I don't think there really is anything like that in the Toronto area either. I mean, that's all toy shows as well. It's all centered around going and, you know, adding to your collection. No real swamp meets. So I've heard of different communities that just do get-togethers for the sake of get-together, and maybe they'll fill up the car or the van with some extra stuff and trades, right? Like, hey, you need this and I need that, and do trades like that. So that's the type of thing that I would love to see around my parts, like, because that's the schoolyard, right? That's exactly what happened in the school. You want Optimus? I've got Megatron here. You know, and then
Well, that's what we do with our Instagram get-togethers. We'll meet at one of the houses, and everybody brings a few little things, and we're like, oh yeah, you got that? Oh, that's cool. You know, we'll talk about this. Oh, look at this one. Oh, yeah, that's awesome. I was thinking about getting that. Yeah, so it's a really good time.
So the new He-Man series, getting back on that, so that we got the Kevin Smith one, which is supposedly going to be a continuation of the Lou Scheimer series, which you know, I'm going to be like Jared on this one. It's like I'll wait till I see it to decide how I feel about it. Like, why would I get excited about it and then watch it and go, oh no, oh my, oh my. And then the other one, no real details. I think they've released like an image of it, and He-Man looks really stylized, like he's got a big chin, and it's like, oh man, not quite Thundercats Roar, but something like that. Like, okay, sure. Just weird to me. Like, this again, it's the multiverse mentality. Just give them 8 different kinds and go with the one that's the most popular.
Yeah, right.
The audience is privy to like the concept art. Basically, the concept art is all being produced, and it's like they're just seeing what will be the most popular. But the He-Man, like the new He-Man show situation, to me is really strange, because they got this new He-Man show coming out, not connected to the new She-Ra show at all. Is the second new He-Man show connected to the new She-Ra show? Don't know. I'm like, this multiverse, man, it's just not for me.
It's too much, and the animation's not even the same. You know, everything is all jumbled up. I mean, you know, so to answer your question, no, that She-Ra universe is going to be completely different. That was one of the gripes I had with the original, I guess, toy line. Was it was super confusing, because, you know, I mean, you know, as a young boy, I would watch She-Ra because I thought it was.
Me too.
I mean, where else would you see Hordak and the Horde Troopers and all that stuff?
And He-Man showed up,
and the Horde, and then He-Man. You know, so here you had a show technically for boys and a show technically for girls that I could enjoy because I could relate to it. You know, I couldn't figure out why, you know, Hordak didn't come on a pink card like the rest of the She-Ra figures, but it was confusing back then. But they at least could tie it together. You know, it was almost like it was 2 separate toy lines that they tied together with a couple of, you know, marketing ploys, if you will, and they had 2 decent shows.
That was really weird how the villains were still on, let's say, the boys cards, you know, the Masters of the Universe classic cards, the same as the He-Man and Skeletor figures. I remember seeing that and going, wait a second, so the Horde toys are for me, but those pink She-Ra toys are for girls. Like, you know, back in the day, you know, our generation, seeing those on the shelf, you know, like, I wasn't going to go buy a She-Ra figure, like, just as a little boy, and, you know, you'd get made fun of. Oh, it's okay now. That's awesome.
Well played.
But I mean, like, just the way the world has changed so much, you'd get made fun of by the cashier. And, you know, as adults, we don't care anymore. We'll stand up for what we love. But you got to remember, like, a 7-year-old boy trying to buy a She-Ra getting made fun of by a cashier, that's going to be a different experience for that little boy. You know, he's going to be like, oh, I'm just like She-Ra, He-Man's sister. So I always thought, like, why not just put the She-Ra figures on a He-Man card? I mean, Teela, we didn't have an issue with Teela, right? But I could see the exact saying, well, girls won't buy them then. You know, like, that's they're going to think
same thing with the Horde figures. I mean, you wouldn't have sold them if they were on a pink card.
Yeah, how many girls bought the Horde figures? Like, they, you know, it's just, has it ever been done? It's such a weird approach to a toy line where, okay, we're going to gear the bad guys towards the boys, the good guys, good girls towards the girls.
Yeah.
But it's all under the same umbrella, same show, same continuity. Like, I can't think of any other line that ever did that. You know, I like GI Joe, the Joes, you know, for boys and the Cobras for girls. Like it just wouldn't work.
Right.
So
right, and they had female figures in GI Joe, and
Oh yeah.
it wasn't like you were buying a doll or anything. You know, I mean, sure, the She-Ra toys had hair that was similar to the stuff you'd find on My Little Pony, but it's still. I mean, you could have. I mean, as a kid, with an imagination, you had a huge playable universe there. So if you took those Horde figures as their villains, I mean, I don't remember having any She-Ra toys, but if I did, I would have had a great time with them, because that would just expand that universe even more, you know?
That was a big advantage of the Joe female figures, just being on a Joe card. And I really don't, I think the She-Ra female figures should have just been on a He-Man card. I mean, just like Teela. You should have been able to put them next to Teela and go, awesome. And they should have looked like Teela, so I don't know if you'd really need the real hair, maybe add that on, but use that basic body, save money, right? They're all about saving money, but it's nice though to see Super 7 kind of rectify that, some unfinished business.
Sure.
And they're doing it the way, like, it's not that I believe passionately it should have been like that. I'm thinking, what if it was like that? And now Super 7's doing it. And I'm looking at the She-Ra that they did on a He-Man card and went, yes, you have something here. So it's just nice that they're at least going with it right now.
Right.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Now, Obi, you have your He-Man Classics, which is a line that I talked about on my last podcast. I'm not really too big into, but I do love them.
I didn't start getting those till about 2 years ago. And I saw, I forgot which one it was, but I saw one and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Next thing you know, I'm like 9, 10 deep, but they're pricey now. They're really pricey to get.
Like chips.
Yeah.
Bitch, you can't have just one.
Just one. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, I was really excited when those came out, and it was fun to order them once a month. So, and they were cheap. They weren't expensive. I mean, what was it, $20 for one?
Right.
So
when they first came out,
that was a little up there, but it wasn't something absurd yet. So it was fun to just try to get them, but then again, the supply and demand thing started to take the fun out of that because there wasn't enough for everybody. And then you got insane prices like Fisto jumping up to whatever he is now, $200 or $300.
Yeah, Fisto is my grail. Hey, it's $200 off card.
Yeah, that's insane. And I've got a pair of them. Like I would buy 2 of them when they came out because I saw like the pattern was these things are retaining their value, if not going up. So. If I ever decide to get rid of them or have to get rid of them, I should be able to get my money back. So I ended up getting, I get 2 so I could open one and have one in behind on display. And I love them, but it really does bother me that so many people don't get to enjoy him and the other rare figures. Because it's like, man, I don't have it in me to get that score and go, yeah, score, screw all you guys. I just look at it and go, man, they couldn't have done that better. They couldn't have figured out a way better. Although Super 7 is doing the animated ones now, so at least, they get the animated Fisto, which is something, right? That's nice.
It's still pretty good. Oh, yeah. I like those.
And they do have some improved. They do have some improved articulation points, I think, too. So that's also cool that you do get something with the new one that's better than the one that you couldn't get before. So that kind of evens things out.
Super 7 really they redid the whole ankle joint. It's much better than the Mattel. So much better. Yeah,
the original was so terrible. I mean, they all almost like a majority of my figures have really bad ankles. They just can't stand well. Random ones will just fall over. Like, how do you make that many? How do you make that mistake that often? on that many figures and just not fix it. So
Right.
that really sucks.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and it's not a mistake that should be made anyhow, because I'm not a toy designer, but as a toy designer should probably figure out early. I mean, you're building on the legs, so literally the first thing that touches the table is the foot and then the ankle joint. So
Yep.
you can't build something that's got the center of gravity of a trash can on roller skates. You know what I mean? You have to build it so that it's actually going to withstand standing. Especially, I mean, in my opinion, like we were talking about before, those toys aren't made for playability.
Oh no.
For kids, they're made to put on a shelf. So
Right.
if you're going to take them off the card and put them on a shelf, they should stand. If they
Yeah.
don't stand, then you failed.
Yeah. Exactly. You almost have to glue them.
Failure.
You almost have to like just fuse their ankles so that they won't fall over. And like, is that articulation point that important anyway? I don't think it really adds anything to those figures' posability. The way those ankles go like that on the new Transformers is awesome. Like when they do the wide-legged stance and they're flat-footed.
Right.
That's fantastic. And a lot of the time those are sturdy. But on the He-Man ones, I'm like, why did you bother? Why'd you put that in there? It's done nothing but made this thing really hard to stand.
Do they have
kids cry?
Do they have a hip joint so that you can actually give them a wide stance like that?
Oh yeah.
They do, but there's not much range.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, you can't do it for like a full split or anything like that.
They got a lot of like joints. They just don't have a lot of range. So like He-Man can't do this, right? I don't think he can hold his sword with two hands.
It's not from lack of me trying, I'll tell you.
Yeah, because he's just got those big bowling ball biceps, and like he can't do it. Like, I remember looking at the figure, going like, all these years later, all this engineering and designing and advancements in technology, and he can't do that.
Can't figure that out.
I mean, at least the modern Joes can do this now. Like they can hold their weapons with two hands, their rifles and whatnot. Because the original Joes couldn't really. I mean, you could put the hand there to make it kind of look like he was holding, but they didn't really have the range to grip like that. So that's the one thing I love about the modern figures is like you can get Lowlight holding a sniper rifle with two hands.
Right.
As it should be.
It's just one thing I think that's probably not happening as much these days, but 10, 15 years ago, when the toy love was starting to really grow, the toy community, the appreciation for toys, I get the feeling that a lot of the toy designers from 10, 15 years ago didn't really play with a toy or think about posability. They were just like, do it, whatever, finish it. And they weren't sitting there going, but he has to be able to, like He-Man has to be able to point the sword up. Not like this, not by the power of Grayskull, like that. So it wasn't until later with the Filmation He-Man that they gave him that wrist tilt so he could actually point the sword the way it should have been pointing since 1983 or 84. Yeah. But the first Classics He-Man didn't have that because it was just a toy designer going, who cares? Like, your customers care, so you should care.
And that's a lot of times what I feel like people sometimes lose sight of is these toy designers, in essence, are making toys for children to play with.
No, they're not.
Most of the time. Okay?
Yeah, that's true.
Now,
that's true.
I'll talk. If you use, for example, the original GI Joes, we'll just start with those guys. Those were made for kids. They weren't made, obviously, to collect and to pose and things like that. So when those things would come up in a meeting, and I'm sure they did, but they were probably like, well, what's it going to cost to tool that? What do you mean we're going to give them? I mean, they didn't get real working elbows until the second
83
1.5 or whatever,
Yep.
So somebody had to say, hey, listen, these they're doing the robot with these foolish elbows that they got there. We got to give them some kind of swivel there. I mean, but that's what it's taking. You know, I mean, it could be, you know, a 5 cent upgrade, but you know, the price for tooling is astronomical when it comes to making a change like that. You know, so yeah, you want to give He-Man a wrist that, you know, points straight up in the sky? Well, no,
Yeah.
it's not cost effective. We're not doing that. You know, beat it.
I think
Beat it, bozo.
G.I. Joe, I think, is probably one of the first major toy lines that was originally conceived, designed for kids, and then along the way they realized this is so much like wider audience than just kids. You know, it's like Superman was originally created for kids, and I would say, I would venture to say that there are more adult fans of Superman than children these days.
Yeah.
So G.I. Joe's the same thing, and I think that's, you know, a major reason for it is because this toy line came out and it was like, it's for kids, who cares? And like you said, the, you know, robot elbows that don't bend. And when they made that change and said, the Joes need to be able to do this, they have to, that doesn't really affect play, does it? I mean, the kid is like, who cares? But that affects posability. And that's a collector mentality. That's like an art appreciation mentality, a very adult mentality, not a childlike mentality. And I remember as a kid, like posing Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, you know, with all the poses I could do. It wasn't just about playing. It was about posing. Snake Eyes was the first figure I ever really posed. That not just for the sake of playing, but I posed him, put him on a stand, wide-legged stance, knee bent, sword and Uzi, and I'm like, man, you know what? He looks cool even when he's not doing anything. Just sitting there. That's wild. And that kind of, you know, opened the doors to this display world instead of just play. You know, it used to be you only play with your toys. Who cares what they look like? And with those changes, also with the 85 Joes, they need to be able to look up, you know, on the ball jointed head. So I think them doing that kind of morphed G.I. Joe or allowed it to go from a children's toy to like an adult appreciated piece of art. So that's like one of the early toy lines that really, I think, was the precursor to what we're seeing today, where, you know, Nika toys come out, and those aren't children's toys. I mean, those are 100%. Same with Masters of the Universe Classics. But I think you could chalk that up to Real American Hero, G.I. Joe, as like one of the pioneers of, okay, these look cool. Like they're fun to play with, but they look cool. You're going to want these hanging on your wall.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And that was actually
I think because of that. What's that? Go ahead.
That was one of the reasons why it took me a while to get these guys back also, when I was recollecting all of my collection. So the Joes look great, even if you don't play with them. The Transformers look great if you don't play with them. These guys I held off because I went, I don't know if he looks great. I remember I loved playing with him, but having him sit there on a shelf, I was like, I don't know if you look great. The 2002 looks great. But this guy was like, I don't know. Now I've come around. I appreciate him. But, you know, I think He-Man...
I mean, they make me very happy.
Well, they make me happy now, too. But it took me a few years to start collecting them again and appreciate them for the sculpt and the art instead of just, man, these were the things I smashed and bashed around. I never put this on a shelf and just kind of, I look so cool.
Yeah.
I mean,
they were definitely
the day,
tough toys.
Those. I only had, I think, 4 of those back in the day. He-Man, Skeletor, Man-at-Arms, Beastman. Man-at-Arms was my first Masters figure.
The original?
Yeah. I bought him and Beastman at the same time.
Where?
Where? Child World, actually.
Yeah.
How do you like that? You didn't think
Michael, just to clue you in here, one of the amazing things about Obi is that he remembers where and when he bought most of his toys, which is fascinating. So I always quiz him.
That's a little like Rain Man, like that.
A little bit, yeah. It's actually quite amazing because I have a terrible memory when it comes to stuff like that. But he remembers where he was most of the time. I don't know. He was
I can't remember
definitely.
what I had for breakfast this morning, but I can remember that.
Send me
He
your
can
man.
tell you that he bought it at Child World 1987 in September
Yep.
at some point. So
Wow.
It was a Saturday. It was 82, and it was 82. And I remember it like it was yesterday because I had my paper route. It was my first week as a paper boy, and I took my earnings from that week. I bought those two figures, and I bought the HAL laser for the Joes.
See that?
Why'd you decide on the HAL?
Oh, it's just awesome. I just loved it. I was a sucker for big laser guns at the time.
A big
so
gun, yeah. A big gun on wheels. I mean, that's awesome.
And Grand Slam looked awesome too. I think I had the HAL as a kid as well. Don't remember where or when I got them, but I loved the red padded design on them. Same as Flash, but Grand Slam looked a little gruffer, meaner. Also had the visor. So
yep.
Yeah, it
was just a grunt head, right? I mean, he just had the grunt head sculpt.
Did you guys ever read the Marvel &80s G.I. Joe comic book?
Oh yeah, I got them all.
Yeah. I've just started rereading the Marvel G.I. Joe comic book. I actually never read the early issues. I got into it later on, I think it was like when the cartoon stopped, then I started picking up the comic book. So it wasn't until quite a bit later. So I picked up the digital G.I. Joe comic a while back. I've had it for a while, and I've tried to read it off and on, and there's something about it that I just wasn't digging. Even though it was the digitally remastered, super nice and clean, perfectly, all the specs taken out, nice white background, and I'm just like, why don't I feel anything reading this? It looks great. What's the problem here?
Mm-hmm.
So the other day I was reading one of the Crystar comics, Crystar, that I recently received in a gift box, and flipping the pages, and I'm just loving like that kind of tan coloration of the paper and the dotting and the little flecks in the paper, and I'm like, and the smell, like this comic.
The smell is, yeah.
I don't think this comic had ever been opened, so I had like vintage 82, 83, whenever that comic came out, smell. I'm like, oh my God, this is time travel. This is incredible. And I finished that issue, and I went, that was amazing. Like, digital does not touch like the actual original vintage. It's not even the nice glossy paper they use today. It's the old like newspaper.
Right.
Yeah,
Newsprint.
It was perfect. So I thought, I wonder. So I did a Google search for G.I. Joe comics, and there's a website that has all the originals scanned, right? And the dude just scanned his collection, right? These are my Joe comics, and I scan them. They're not the digital ones. They're not the remastered. They're just my original comics. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing them years ago and going, yuck. Like it's an old beat up comic, and yuck, I want the special edition. Well, son of a gun, I start reading it and I go, oh my God, this is awesome. This is amazing. Like, even though it's digital, like the tan, the dot printing, coloration, like the little flecks in the paper, because the scanning is amazing, right?
Yeah.
And I read the first issue and the second issue and the third issue, and I'm like, this is incredible. Like, I'm reading like a scan of the old newspaper comic. Meanwhile, I've got the digital remaster, and I'm like, no thanks, special edition. They've special editioned the magic out of it. Like, no dot coloration. They've made it all solid and white and clean, and killed it. Like, for me, like it just killed it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm
sanitized.
Sanitized. So I'm really enjoying the original, like their scans still. Ideally, I would love to have the original Joe comics, but that's not going to happen. Like, those are thousands of dollars to own the original Marvel, run. Like, I'm just really loving.
I still have all mine. But it's funny. I was talking to on Instagram yesterday to Dave C from the Patreon group about the Marvel run, and I told him that issue number 40 in the post-box pit section is a letter that a friend of mine wrote and signed my name to it.
No way! Issue 40.
Issue 40. He signed his name to it. He signed me, him, me, and one of our other friends. But I guess when they put it in, they put us in alphabetically, and I was first. And I'm like, I didn't write this. I'm like, this isn't me.
This is
But
forgery.
yeah, yeah, you know, I didn't do that.
Do you remember what the
But yeah,
comment was?
it was something about we've been reading the book since the beginning, and we're really disappointed because. And he goes on this tirade about how Hasbro's not making October God figures, and
Oh
I'm
no.
like, I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, I'd kind of like those, but
Why would you put my
I have
name
no
to a
problem
complaint?
with the book. You know,
I was
so
thinking he
yeah,
put his name like "We Love Joe" and you know it's meant a lot to us and me and my buddies.
Yeah.
But why would you like complain and then I'm adding my friends' names like it's a petition?
Right.
and
Yeah.
his complaint was with Hasbro, not even Marvel Comics. I'm like, that's all out.
That's fantastic.
Wonder if Larry
was-
Hama responded to that. Okay, fine, go away, leave me alone.
No more books for you. What? I didn't write it.
You know what are really good Joe comics are the crossover between GI Joe and Transformers.
Oh yeah.
The originals?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's a 4-part series.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I don't know if there's 3, 4, maybe.
I believe so.
But I mean, the covers are spectacular alone. But the stories are actually really good.
I really enjoyed. I haven't read that one in a while, but I loved when Joe and Transformers crossed over when they brought Transformers back. So the Transformers comic
Yes.
had stopped, and then Megatron shows up in an issue of G.I. Joe, and he's all smashed like he was in the last time we saw him. I'm like, oh,
Yep.
this is amazing. And then they give him the new tank body for the G2 Megatron. And it was
Yep.
just surreal that like Transformers was dead. There was no more cartoon, there was no more comic, but here they are in G.I. Joe. And I didn't know that another Transformers comic was coming soon. But I just
Right.
remember thinking, like, man, that's so awesome when this dead brand still gets to have a second, you know, get their second wind in this other comic. Kind of like how it seems like G.I. Joe has done that for a few different brands. Like Matt Tracker got that one figure in the modern line. Same
Yeah.
deal, right? Like Deadline, Forgotten, but here's a Tracker figure. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That was a good looking figure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Really good.
Nice surprise. Great head sculpt on him. And I love how he was so, like, they added a little extra stuff on his chest, which you can actually tear off. You can just pry off that armor piece. And if you do, he's just wearing his Thunderhawk outfit. He's got his flight suit and like the leather or whatever it is strap. Yeah. So I just pried it off one day thinking, what would this look like without this thing that doesn't look like Tracker ever wore? So, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been great if they had extended that line, maybe released the vehicles again. But that's a tough sell.
And then a couple of other crossover figures I can think of is the club did in the G.I. Joe style of figures for the episode Only Human from Transformers. So they did one of Snake, which was Cobra Commander. Do you remember when Cobra Commander was in the Transformers episode?
No.
I don't.
You don't remember that? It was one of the post-movie episodes. So the show jumped forward to the year 2006, I guess, for the cartoon.
Sure.
2005 was the movie. So there was an episode where some bad guys were buying synthoid technology from this old shady character with a chrome dome and a fedora who was voiced by Chris Latta.
Really?
And he was doing the Cobra Commander voice. Yeah, it's the most mind-blowing crossover, and it's right there in 1986. Like, this is Cobra Commander.
Wow.
And he's selling synthoid technology, which was on a G.I. Joe episode, the Synthoid Conspiracy. And so they get a hold of 3 Autobots, or 4 Autobots, and the bad guys are able to control the Autobots' bodies. And in order to get rid of the Autobot personalities, they dump them out in a bunch of goo, so that the Autobot bodies just become just machines that you can pilot. So the bad guys are in the Autobots and transforming or using the robots to smash things. But the goo forms into humanoids, like people. And, they're like, put these coveralls on. We got to go and get our bodies back. And they just luckily, like each guy and girl, RC is in there too, find a set of overalls and shirt that's the same color as their color scheme. So Springer gets like the yellow and the green coveralls, like
Of course.
and Ultra Magnus the red, white, and blue, and Rodimus Prime's like orange and yellow, like perfect.
Yeah, wow.
So they're human for an episode, trying to get their bodies back. And the club made that Snake. They never call him Cobra Commander. They just call him Old Snake. And also they made the RC human figure and the Rodimus Prime human figure. So the Snake one comes in a 3-pack. He's got 2 like android. They're not bats. Yeah. They're supposed to be bats, like future bats, something like that.
Sure.
So he's at a 3-pack, but the Rodimus and RC are on like G.I. Joe style cards. Just, with their own card art on it, different background. But at the very end of the episode, the Snake, the old Snake, when everything is falling apart, the Autobots have their bodies back, the bad guys have been defeated, and old Snake is just walking down the road, and he goes, "They just don't make terrorists like they used to. Cobra!" so he just starts coughing. And I thought, is that like a rights thing that they couldn't call him Cobra Commander? They couldn't even have him yell Cobra. Like they have him stop by coughing. I'm like, man, that's the ultimate 80s crossover right there. Cobra Commander, 20 years older, because it's 20 years after.
Sure.
So he'd be, if he was in his, I don't know, what do you think? He's in his 40s in Real American Hero? Cobra Commander, maybe?
Yeah, maybe late 30s, early 40s, sure.
Yeah, so he'd be, 50s, 60s in that episode. But
but he's still up to his hijinks.
Yeah, every Joe fan has to see that episode. It's called Only Human, and it's.
I had no idea that existed.
Yeah.
But in G.I. Joe the movie, he turns into a snake, so that just debunks the whole thing. Now I'm taken out of the story completely.
Oh, but then there's the Deke series, and in the in the Deke series, they use the Pythonizing ray. That's actually the one thing that I do accept from the Deke series. It's like I'll put on Operation Dragonfire episode 1, and then when he's back into humanoid form, he still kind of looks like a snake, but at least he's a humanoid form. Then I'll turn it off and go, all is right with the world. It's like a stop clock is right twice a day. Deke did one thing right. They brought Cobra Commander back.
Oh.
That
True.
I recently tried to watch that series, the Deke series. I can't get into it. I can't.
It's actually scientifically impossible.
You're probably right.
It's
as with all Deke series.
It's impossible. Yeah. When I was working on the history of Storm Shadow, before I knew it was going to be the 80s edition, I thought it was going to be all of Storm Shadow, and then when I hit like the 15-minute mark, I'm like, oh boy, there's a lot more to this guy than I thought.
A lot of minutia.
Yeah, but before I got to that point, I found his stuff in the Deke series. He's in 2 episodes, and oh my lord, just going through those episodes and clip hunting, I'm like, oh my god, this is awful. I mean, the music, the dialogue. Even if you I was thinking maybe I could use the clip and use different audio over it, use some Sunbow audio voiceovers, sound effects, music. But even the animation is like, everything is corner cutting, shortcut, low quality. And it's so sad because the toys were still awesome. Like the figures and the vehicles were still awesome almost right up until the end, aside from the neon stuff. Okay, some of the stuff, the space stuff is out there. But you look at the figures. Yeah, but even that stuff, like take a close look at the figure, it's still a nice sculpt.
Yeah.
It's still well designed. It's not like, they're made of bendy rubber. They didn't really cut all that many costs on the toys. But it's just the cartoon is shocking how cheap it ended up being.
That's the perfect word for it.
Shocking.
Yeah. That is shocking.
That should be on the DVD. I need to do a little graphic.
On the trailer.
Right, yeah.
It'll be on the trailer.
Yeah.
It's shocking.
I need to do a little like update to the DVD cover with one of those little yellow bursts that just says shocking.
Shocking. And on the back have the, the 3 and the 5 stars, like the critics have, critically acclaimed. Shocking, says Siskel. Deplorable, says Ebert.
Yeah.
Deplorable.
Oh my lord.
Oh, it's just awful.
Yeah.
Awful show.
One star.
Yeah.
One big star.
One big star. That counts for like 5 small ones, doesn't it?
Sure.
Just about. Why not?
It even does.
I would love to do a commentary one day on the on one of the Deke episodes, because I did one on that Rambo episode a while back with Eric.
That was awesome.
And we had a blast. Like,
that was awesome.
Because there's a potential for fun and jokes there.
Yeah.
Like it's absurd, but it's really funny. I'm wondering how a Deke Joe episode would go. Like if it would just be fun and funny, or if it would like be 22 minutes of crying, or like make it stop.
You'd have to pause it several times to get through the hysterical laughter and the disappointment and shame you feel for watching it.
Well, there have been some.
I can take a shower after this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna have to use fire. Soap and water isn't gonna cut it. Burn it with fire.
Magic.
Because I was wondering, like, there have been some Transformers fans who've done incredible dubs of the some of the Japanese Headmaster episodes. So the cartoon continued in Japan after it stopped here, and there have been some incredible dubs where like the fans get the voices almost perfectly. There's a guy doing Blaster, and there's another one doing Starscream, and they do the sound effects, and they redo the audio from top to bottom. I mean, they have to. You can't use any of the original audio. So they're putting in the music, the footsteps, the blaster sounds, the transformation sounds. They're putting in the music the way it's supposed to be. Like quiet when it's supposed to be quiet, action packed when the action picks up, and then all the audio too. And they're using good microphones. So I've seen some of those dubs on YouTube, and they're incredible. I mean, slow Orson Welles clap, the amount of work that went into that.
Oh, I can imagine.
And they've had to rewrite them too. Like they're not using the original Japanese dialogue. They've re-edited them. They've taken parts and stuff, and it's a great story too. I don't know if you can do that with the Deke episodes, because it's just, it's
I
like
don't think you'd want to.
Yeah, it's like those fan edits of the prequels. Have you ever seen the fan edits of the prequels? Yeah, it's the same thing. It's like you can't make chicken salad out of something that comes out of the chicken's hind end.
An egg?
You can't make chicken salad out of pig.
That's egg salad.
That is egg salad, yeah. Well, I mean, they could always just redub it with, like a Casey Kasem voiceover, take some of his clips from the old Scooby-Doo cartoon, and
great.
That would be fantastic. I think that would actually
American
help.
Top 40. Wow.
Hey, that's an idea. That's a quick and easy idea. Just take an old top 40 episode. And, yeah. Hello, fans. I'm Casey Kasem.
Coming in at number 3.
We have a long distance dedication from Optimus Prime in the other room.
Yeah, Lowlight is shooting at Night Viper.
Yeah.
This is actually much better than the original Deke episode.
Right. We have a long distance dedication.
That's right.
From Flint to barbecue.
You see Hawk like pensive.
Right.
Pensive Hawk on his desk. Long distance dedication goes to Sally in Florida.
Yeah. And then play 30 seconds of the song. Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it would.
Let's finish up today with the recent announcement of Jazzwares. I think it's Jazzwares getting they got the G.I. Joe license from Hasbro. So so for the folks who aren't familiar with Jazzwares, the first thing that popped into my mind when I heard Jazzwares was the A-Team movie figures, which were awesome. They're I got one right over here. I love how everything is within range today, within reach. Lynch. This is Agent Lynch with some custom sunglasses from eBay that aren't available anymore. They were on there years ago. But these came out a few years ago for the A-Team movie, and I love them. They're very similar to Joe's. Maybe a little better even than a modern G.I. Joe design, possibly, in terms of like posability and stuff. They look really nice.
They did an excellent job with those.
Yeah, they didn't make many of them, but they're nice. The van is kind of cool. I love how it looks. I love the electronics. The one thing about the van that makes me go like this is that bumper is like made of noodles. You know, it's like the rubberiest, bendiest, you know, safest. We don't want this breaking and skewering anybody. Like that's the one, and also the door falls off like nothing. So it seems to be really made, you know, to not be broken. You know, they don't want little kids breaking this thing. So that's the one thing. Like the figures will be great, but the vehicles might feel really safe. You know, like you won't have all that many moving parts. If you do, they'll easily detach and come off, and you know, like really bendy doors and antennas and stuff. But I thought, hey, that's cool. They make the Fortnite figures too, which are fantastic.
Yeah,
right.
There's that Firefly figure that everyone's like, that's Firefly. You know?
Yeah.
My only beef with the Fortnite figures is the articulation in the palm. That's it. I just don't care for that. But other than that, the figures are great.
Yeah, they look awesome.
I haven't seen any of them like out of package. So when you say the palm articulation,
Almost like the old Toy Biz. It like has like the hinge right in the palm of the hand. I don't like that.
oh, I'm trying to picture what that's like.
Yeah. Just like the old Toy Biz Marvel Legends all had them.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, you know, at least something's happening with it, and this might actually be the best thing for the line because, you know, like the original Real American Hero line was fantastic, but like after that, has Hasbro really done anything spectacular since '94?
No.
I mean, the Toys R Us line, that's what I always call it because they popped up in '97 in Toys R Us, and I was like, you know, I was excited to see them. Wow. And then when I saw them, I was like, yuck. What is this? Like they were the laziest repaints with like rubbery material. You know, and then the modern line, I like them, but you know, again, within range here, like, you know, what is this elbow articulate? There's no, how does an original 82 G.I. Joe have more elbow articulation than this guy who came 20, 30 years later? How does that happen?
There's no need of that.
That's a perfect example of a toy designed by a designer who's not looking at it like, you know, it's got to bend more than that. And some of the modern ones do. I mean, they corrected it. When they were told this is a problem, you know, by people saying like, this is an actual problem, this is important to us, please fix it. Because I'm sure when they were working on it, they just went, who cares? Like, your customers care, fix it.
Yeah, Hasbro has so many missed opportunities. I feel like it's amazing to me that they pump anything out. You know, it seems like they're hanging on to the My Little Pony thing, which is fantastic. But was it a few years ago where they came out with that Revolution set, and they made Leoric from Visionaries.
Yeah.
Now, I'll be biased because Visionaries happens to be one of my favorite toy lines, but why no hologram on his chest? I mean, that is the single most striking feature of a Visionaries toy is the hologram on his chest, and they decided to paint Leoric's lion on his chest, and that's exactly what it was. You know, to have a hologram, it costs money.
I think isn't it like because I have him. He's up there. I'm looking at him. It's like a shiny sticker. It's not a hologram, but it's like
not a hologram. Right?
Yeah, it's just like a shiny.
That's the gimmick. You can't.
I know.
You can't not make it a hologram. You know, it just doesn't. It doesn't work. And if you think about it, I have all the original Visionaries. I think there's only 12 or 13 of them. You know, so it's not like they have to expand the universe and it's going to be 500 figures like G.I. Joe. They got 13 sculpts to work with.
Yeah.
Just put a hologram on it. You know, they're going to sell, even if you market them to older collectors and not kids, they're awesome toys. I would have bought them all, but
As a real
Oh, yeah.
shame that he didn't have the hologram. I mean, that speaks
it's
volumes.
just,
That's one of
it's a
those
missed opportunity.
it's one of those who cares moments, you know.
Yeah.
Who
Well, I
care?
care.
Who cares? Like
I
your customers care.
I care, damn it.
Why
Yes.
and I agree with you. Why even do them then? I mean,
Exactly.
why
Don't
even do
bother.
it? Don't
Right.
bother.
Mhm.
Especially if he's the only one that you're going to release, and you're going to let that toy line die on the vine.
Yeah.
There's no,
Right.
don't do it. You know,
Maybe their way of thinking is, well, someone else will do it. Like these custom guys think they're so crafty. Maybe
Oh, I
Toy
see what you
Hacks
did.
will, yeah, maybe Toy Hacks will put out a, you know, they can go and charge people $14 for a hologram sticker, and
Yep.
you know, we'll
I'll
give you
make
the
'em.
figure, and because a lot of customizers do that already. You know, Toy Hacks has a bunch of upgrade sticker sets, and then there's a bunch of, you know, custom accessory sets, armor, stuff like that. Like every transformer, big transformer that comes out, it's like, hey, weapon add-on, this add-on, that add-on. Unicron is going to have crazy number of add-ons for sure, because there's just going to be, you know, people going, he needs this and he needs that. But in the case of Leoric, that's such a low number produced and low number of passionate Visionaries fans who want them.
Agreed. Yeah.
I don't think that's going to
Well,
happen. You know, there's not going to
Wasn't
be
that a HasCon exclusive or no?
It was
San
a
Diego?
HasCon exclusive. Yeah.
Hascon?
No, HasCon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Revolution. It was from the Revolution set.
I ended up
Came with
getting him.
Rom and Matt Tracker and
Right.
a few others. Yeah.
I usually, like, when that stuff first comes out, I wait and I wait, and there's always like just like the eye of the middle of the storm, the eye of the storm, where it's like, ooh, that's the lowest it's ever going to be, because the hype of the event is past, and we're
Sure.
not yet into that period where it's like, oh, I wish I got it. The price skyrockets. So I waited a few months and I nabbed him for the lowest I ever saw him. And when I got him, it was like, great, it's a G.I. Joe that kind of looks like Leoric, and he can't hold his staff, which is really, really, really short. I mean, that's another corner cut, right?
The original one wouldn't hold the staff either. I mean, those are tough figures to pose and stand and display.
They can, but you're gonna need a new pair of underwear. Like, I was able to get all my Visionaries to.
Jared, you should have talked to Michael about this first before you tried to put yours up.
I did, yeah. Underwear, I guess, was the trick.
I was able to get all my Visionaries to hold their staves, but it is scary because you have to
tough.
twist it in the hand. So there's a moment where the thumb is like,
It's gonna snap, yes.
and you're like, oh. So luckily, it's a little bit of the material has a little bit of give to it. It's not hard brittle plastic, so it does work, but it's terrifying, and I wouldn't really recommend it. But like the staves were so tall and long on the original figures, and that con exclusive, it's this short thing, and he can't hold it, like, because his hands are in like this position, not that, to hold, you know, what?
Yeah.
They're in like
that.
They're in
claw.
well, yeah, actually, everything is within range today. It's crazy. This is a Hardmaster figure from one of the comic book sets, and that's the hand I think they gave Leoric, like that kind of claw martial arts.
That's foolish.
Yeah,
what are you supposed to do with that?
I think he thinks he's in lion mode or something, rawr, or something. So can't hold the staff, can't hold the whip, and it's like, why do I have this? I mean, this is
now if it had a hologram, you wouldn't be second guessing it. You'd be like, how cool is this? It's got a hologram.
That would erase a lot of it. I'd still look at the staff and go, this teeny tiny staff. It's a mask size staff. It goes with mask figures, not with a 4-inch figure. But yeah, he's kind of, as much as I love the Visionaries, he's the Star Wars sequel trilogy to me. He's like, I guess I like this brand, you know. Don't love this figure.
Right.
Well, guys, that's been about an hour and a half. It's been fun. This has been a really fun 3-way dance. Thanks for joining me.
Hey,
Loved
thanks
it.
for having us back.
Yes.
A lot of people don't.
Well, I'm always excited to talk to people again. It's just, scheduling this stuff is, but that's why having both of you guys on at the same time, it's like, hey, cool, two birds with one stone. It's awesome, and
Sure.
you guys know each other, so there's no awkwardness of, who are you? I don't trust you. There's actually that awesome story that Jared, you told me about. If I'm remembering this right, forgive me because I'm on a little bit of cold medicine, but the really generous donation of the GI Joe collection.
Yes. Yeah, I'd say about 90% of my collection is Obi's childhood collection.
Yeah. So Obi, big salute to you, sir.
Salute.
That is incredible.
Yeah, what's especially special about that is he had all of the accessories to go with the 80 figures that he gave me.
Wow.
Including, let's see, Zartan's mask, his human mask. Destro's gun. Especially impressive was he had Firefly's walkie-talkie.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know how a kid doesn't lose that over the years, but
I had a bit of a problem.
They're all there. Everything is there.
It's scientifically impossible to not lose that walkie-talkie. I lost mine. Everybody who ever had one lost it. It's scientifically impossible to not lose it. So I don't know how
I have no idea.
He must have created a time machine, went back and grabbed it before his younger self lost it.
I'm telling you, it's unreal. I lose my keys once a week. I don't know how this guy kept.
Well, I just picked up a Firefly a few days ago. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. But I remember where I got my Firefly. It was at a local toy con. And the Firefly that I still have from my childhood, which I don't remember where I got him, is just beat up. His thumb broke off and it's been glued back on 5 times and it's barely hanging on. Paint's all worn off. He was one of the toys that I really played a lot with, and yeah, the phone was gone a long time ago. So I want to do a video on him eventually, and I want to have a nicer specimen to display than this old beat up junker. So I ended up getting this Firefly. Luckily, my pal Lou was there, and he got himself a vintage Destro, and we got a deal for getting 2 of them from the same seller. And he had his phone. So I'm like, holy smokes, I haven't seen this phone since I was a kid. And I can't believe this isn't lost. Like, how does this exist? Get him home and put them all together, and I can't get the phone in his hand. Cannot get the phone in his hand because he's got this thing looks like it was never played with. So the hands are especially close together.
Yeah.
And if I get the phone in there, I'll either break the thumb, which I've had experience with, or I'm going to damage the phone, pinching the plastic and getting it in there.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
Oh no, I've got the phone and I can't use it. This is why this phone kept getting lost. So it's in there with sticky tack. He's got, let's say it's C4.
That's right. See, it doubles.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So guys, I just want to give you another big thank you. Thanks for joining me. It was a blast chatting with you. And I'll put the links to your Instagram in the show notes down below.
Excellent.
And looking forward to chatting with you again. Hopefully we can do another 3-way dance again soon.
Oh, that'd be fantastic.
Awesome.
Anytime.
Guys. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks everyone out there for listening. Nerd Miss Day.
Yo, Joe.